New rule, let's put a trigger warning on trigger warnings.
I gotta take it on the other side.
Hey, welcome back in for another edition of The Other Side. My name's Dan Borowski here with Anthony Dorenzo, and every so often we like to take over the YouTube channel. And today we're going to do just that. Talk about a little bit of what we want to talk about. We had a great weekend. Went to a fan expo together yesterday.
Yes,
yeah,
that was awesome.
Something crazy happened there we'll get into in a little bit. But just want to note, if you're joining us and you're familiar with the 1210 WPHT channel, every day you got Nick Hill in the mornings, you got Dining with Dom at noon, Dawn's at 10. And then don't forget today at 5, you have Happy Hour with Rich.
Yes,
He'll be right here on
coming up.
YouTube. So you got to tune in for that. So Anthony, first off, though, I want to get started with the biggest story here in Philadelphia, and that's got to be the shooting of the 18-year-old up there on 95. If you're unaware of what's going on, I mean, where have you been? But it's an 18-year-old who's with a bunch of street racers, guys doing donuts, who essentially took over 95 right near Penn's Landing around 3:15 in the morning, and closed all the traffic, and this kid allegedly hits 2 police officers, state troopers, and then one of the state troopers fires into a car, allegedly, and kills this kid. There's a video out there on Instagram that shows the kid clearly out of the car. The question I have for this video is, when was this video taken? Because you see the kid out there, and the girlfriend's out there in media saying, refuting the claim of the police that the kid was outside, the 18-year-old guy, he was outside the vehicle at the time. Mm-hmm. But man, I have bigger implications for this story. I mean, D.A. Krasner is now handling it, and I have a lot of questions of how he's going to handle that, because I think he's a lot of at fault as to what we're seeing here. But just your general thoughts on what we saw happen on I-95.
I mean, it's just a continued trend of what we have been seeing for months now. And it's not, I guess, looking at something like, I don't know, comparing this to like what's been going on at Temple and maybe what officers deal with there, it's a little different, but it's still these kids coming from out of town. They're not necessarily Philadelphians.
Where was this kid from, do you remember?
I think this was Upper Darby media area, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But either way, it just is that continued trend, and it's what the police officers, which first of all, you heard from McNesby today, we're just short on officers. And going from there, excuse me.
So last week I was sick. That's why we
Yeah,
didn't do
sorry.
Other Side last week. So are you getting what I'm getting? Is this allergies or what is this?
It is. I think it is a little bit of allergies.
Okay.
So much pollen, but yeah, what they've been dealing with. It's not a glamorous job. It's not what a lot of people want to deal with. And on top of, this continued, I guess, exportation of crime, people just come here to commit crimes. It's a continued issue, and I don't know how to curb
Martina
that.
Martina White, representative, she released a press release and said the way to fix this is more officers. Is that the number one priority in fixing this? I mean, that's kind of what you're implying here. Is you're not blaming police. I don't want to put that in your, but
Not at all.
But
no.
it's there's definitely a shortage here that I think is contributing to what we're seeing. All this crime explode. Is that where you're leaning with this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a thankless job. It's hard to even really get what they want done as the officers with the power that they're supposed to have. So I understand why it's so hard for them. They really need, and they're asking a lot of their officers. It's a job that takes a lot, and anyone that's doing this, it's out of their will. And I mean, each of them deserves to be thanked. And I know it's not a perfect thing, but I think Philadelphia police officers, mostly people from this community, and they really care about it. So that's, something we need to keep as some sort of pride, bringing new officers in here and trying to recruit. Obviously, it's a tough job, but yeah.
If you saw me distracted there, I wasn't like texting or anything. I was actually sending this link to a group of police officers I play fantasy football with, because they are great cops in the suburbs. They work for a big town, a big township. And they essentially say, they laugh at the notion of working in Philadelphia. Like, no cop, no young cop, good young cop seems to want to work in Philadelphia. A lot of it has to do with the residential requirements.
Yeah.
But, I mean, salary is low. Uh, where do you like? How do you get cops to come? How do you get college kids to want to work in Philadelphia compared to a suburb?
I just think you need better leadership, which I guess
Union leadership, or like outlaw and
no, I mean like
department
outlaw
leadership?
and
Okay.
department. I think that's what continues. I mean, look at what we're talking about right now. I understand those. I believe we're both state police officers, correct? But still, that's in Philadelphia. She should be making a statement coming out, and it's just, I guess this ununified police department that we currently have, where some people are standing up for what the police officers actually believe, the others are trying to be like political, almost activists to continue to move up the structure and kind of keep the status quo rather than try to do their jobs at the best case. And that's, I mean, I guess that's any career. There's some politics being played, but in this one especially, obviously.
Well, the thing is, Dom made the point on air today that there's no support from the department. There's no support, and if you're a suburban police chief, he would venture to say that you should declare to the department if there's calls for assist in Philadelphia, you shouldn't go, because there's such a lack of support that if you have something happen like this where you're getting hit as a state trooper and fire back, you're in Philadelphia, you're not going to have the support that you would have otherwise. We'll get into that individual situation here in a second. But you're right. And it's a police commissioner, Daniel Outlaw, that prioritizes politics over the safety of our officers.
It's just a trend of what we see. I mean, we've seen this for years, and I guess it's not necessarily surprising, but whoever wins, and obviously I guess everyone's going to say it's going to be Sherelle, but I hope David O has a fighting chance. It would be nice to see a competitive race. But either way, I think all of these people realize we need new leadership. And in most cases like this, there is a push for new leadership when there is a new mayor, etc.
So just breaking it down, Parker has really just skirted the question over and over again whether or not she'd replace Outlaw. She says she doesn't like to make personnel decisions on the campaign trail. So that would, reading between the lines, she's probably going to give Outlaw a shot, see how it goes, and then switch over. On the other hand, I think he's implied. I don't take my word for it. Don't write it into the papers or anything. But I think you said on the Dom show before that he would get rid of Outlaw. So there is a clear distinction between the two candidates in that sense.
I mean, I'm just happy with whoever would be boots on the ground and ready to try to make changes. And even if that is giving them a shot. I mean, I know at that debate, the last mayoral debate that Dom had, we heard from Alan Dom a story he had about Outlaw and how she really wanted help, and he tried to help her, and there were issues with the mayor, and depending on I know that some people may not believe that, but if things like that are true, I understand if someone like Sherelle would want to give her a shot. But either way, we need someone to hold them accountable at this moment. Look at Mayor Kenny. I think Mayor Kenny was like our listeners down in DC watching the Phillies, so yeah,
Dude,
they're
what a
just
joke he is, man.
Yeah. I saw pictures of him down there. So
what an absolute joke. And the guy paraded himself as like some kind of South Philly, Irish dude.
Yeah, he hides in his All
right, so a couple more things on this situation on 95. District Attorney Larry Krasner is going to be trying the case. And on Reddit, the posts were essentially saying, how has the city gotten to the point where there's people doing donuts and stuff out on highways? And are you shaking your head because I'm going to blame Krasner, or are you shaking your head because you're just so frustrated with it?
Yeah, it's endless.
I blame Krasner, and I say it because I was an idiot kid. Like, I was a really stupid kid. I had a big 15-inch subwoofer in my car, rims, tinted window. Like, I could see myself being one of the idiots that if I'm playing Grand Theft Auto and social media, TikTok, if people are on essentially doing IRL GTA, which is a thing, in real life GTA,
friend,
I could see my dope idiot butt being one of those people on social media doing what this 18-year-old kid did.
Yeah.
And the only way that happens is if you foster an environment where there's lawlessness and you allowed essentially Grand Theft Auto to play out on your streets with stupid-ass policies, and that's Larry Krasner.
I mean, it continually is an issue. Every single weekend you hear that. I mean, we hear it every weekday. The second, the sun comes up, you'll hear some dirt bikes, ATVs flying around everywhere.
So where are you at? What part of the city? Just general neighborhood. You don't have to give me like a cross street.
Yeah, I'm in Fairmount area. Yeah. And
so you have a lot of the,
I mean, a decent amount. Yeah, you'll
Spring
hear
Garden. Going down Spring Garden, they always go down there.
They're all over the place. And I mean, no matter what neighborhood you're in, I mean, You go get dinner in Rittenhouse. You'll hear him
It's
ride
true.
right past
Yeah.
you at this point. So
And me and Maisie went one day. We wanted to take bike rides through the city with the rent bikes. What are they called down there?
I think it's city bikes now.
Yeah, whatever they're called.
Might be right.
So we rented a bike, and essentially we heard the rumble coming. So we're like, we're gonna throw it back on the dock, get inside. Like, we just didn't want to ride our bikes in a bike lane as people were flying past us on motorcycles, ATVs. It sucks. It sucks.
Yeah. And then you don't know, as a car or as a biker, you don't know how they're gonna go. They're always just gonna probably take right away, blow through lights. You
Yeah.
have to be careful. You
Yeah,
don't know
they
what
don't
to
care.
do. People just have to sit there, stop, don't
Yeah.
know what to do.
Dude, coming over the Ben Franklin Bridge, I was almost sideswiped by like I was coming up, and there was like 2 on my back right and 3 on the back left, and they were coming to surround me and pass, and one of the guys just flies right past my left side mirror. It's like, if that gets knocked off, I'm screwed. That's my bill, you know?
Yeah.
I can't stop the guy. I can't get his insurance information.
Yeah, there's no,
There's no
license
insurance for that.
Yeah, there's no license on that.
And then the situation itself, 95. Did you see the video on Instagram?
Yeah, I think we have it here, don't
do
we?
you actually have
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Oh, man, you're the...
Oh no, not 95. Not
So
95.
no, I'm
we
talking.
have-
All right,
yeah,
so
yeah,
so we
okay,
have
no.
actually play that though. This is, if you want an example, this is not on 95, but this is the donuts, the crap we're talking about of what happened up on 95. But I think this is probably on Delaware Ave.
Wasn't this Cotman?
Was it
area?
Cotman?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah, why don't you play that?
Just pure ridiculous.
Yeah. He's doing donuts and I don't know.
I mean, what time is this? Like 3 a.m. I
Like an
believe.
impressionable kid that watches Fast and Furious, plays GTA. Like, they'd be out there. I don't know what this Allegheny kid's history is, the 18-year-old. But absolutely horrible place to be in. You know, you're closing down traffic. I don't know if you heard the reports, but people were sitting in traffic at 3:15 a.m. Because the entire highway was closed, and police had to direct them to go actually back towards oncoming traffic using the shoulder on the same side of the highway. So, like, you're creating if someone veers off accidentally, you're creating a head-on collision on a highway. I mean, obviously at slower speeds, but it's a dangerous situation you're creating up there. But in the Instagram video itself, you have the cop who has the 18-year-old Allegrini on the ground. I don't know if he's already been shot. There's no context for that. You can't tell if he's bleeding. The Instagram video is labeled as if he's already been shot. But I don't know. What would make sense is the police reports say that he was in his vehicle and they shot at the oncoming vehicle to get him to cease after already injuring 2 officers. So if that's the case, what would happen is shot out of the car, and then this video's taken, video's being filmed. On the ground is the kid. Cop turns saying, "What are you doing?" I think, or something like that, with the kid filming the video, and holds a gun towards the person taking the video, which is a horrible look for a cop. But if you're a cop responding to a situation on 95 with a bunch of drag racers, and someone says something like that and is aiming something towards you, your initial reaction would probably be to, you know, use that drawn firearm and aim towards the person who's aiming something towards you.
Yeah.
So absolutely horrible video, no context, but it looks as though the kid's outside the car. Are you buying Allegheni's girlfriend, who's out there alleging that she believes the police are essentially lying, and that the boyfriend, the kid, was already out of the vehicle and just was essentially a pedestrian bystander watching the ongoing events, and this happened?
I don't believe it, because he just continued. I mean, he ran into 2 officers that were fully, you know, uniformed officers with 2 police cars. Like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
You have to have some sort of accountability. I don't mean, you never want that situation to end in death, ever. Nobody wants that situation to happen, but we need better policing, and we also need people to act more civilized and less ridiculous like
Right,
this, whether
right.
it's kids, adults, whoever it is, because that's why we keep having these issues. I mean, especially in the city, you know, I could argue, and I can understand people being in the suburbs complaining about what police do, but in the city, I mean, these guys, they're really just trying to help and figure things out. And to even if you're a kid, to do that, they're not going to end your life if you just pull over and you're
Yeah.
speeding around. It's, you know,
Yeah.
this culture of thinking you could just get away with
Like,
assaulting officers, maybe
so
killing.
you think in the kid's mind, I mean, it's horrible, and, you know, we're not trying to do that, put words into anyone's mouth or anything like that, but do you think he was essentially trying to escape the police and get away, and that's how he ran into the officers in the
Maybe,
first
but
place?
isn't that insane that that's
Yeah.
what people think they
Yeah.
can get away with now?
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm not saying I ever thought about doing that, but if I did, I don't think that's if I got caught. Oh, if I got caught, I would not. You know, you have to pull over. You have to surrender. Like in that situation, especially when you're a kid, you have your whole life ahead of you. Let them teach you your lesson. Whatever, you're going to have to go through some legal stuff, whatever. They're not going to end your life totally. Trying to go after them and hit them with your car, which is essentially...
Dude, honestly, you're concerned about them. Yeah, like you're right in the first place. Just don't be out there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Yeah,
but if
go-
you
sorry,
are
didn't,
out
didn't mean to
there...
interrupt you and kill your. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you are out there, obviously that's ideal. Don't do this if you're a teenager.
Yeah.
But if you do find yourself doing something
Like,
dumb, just pull over,
Abide
surrender.
by the
Yes.
police. You know.
Even if you think it's unfair in the moment, whatever. That's why we have
As
the legal system.
The
That's
great
you
Eric
know.
Cartman once said, "Respect their authority."
Yeah, we need a soundboard. We could put that on there.
All right, so why don't you take the stage for some national politics?
Yeah, so obviously everyone continues to say Trump, Biden. Oh, that's just guaranteed. 2024, Trump versus Biden.
I think it's gonna happen.
You know, I guess it's still trending in that way. I'm not saying it isn't, but you know, I think the continued. I could make a compilation, and maybe I will, of all the clips of whether it's Nikki Haley has no shot, or Tim Scott, he's a loser, or all these people, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, obviously RFK on the other side, Marianne Williamson, among others. And I'm not saying all these people are heavy
Marianne
hitters.
Williamson running again?
I don't. She's trying
Is she
to.
an actual
She's
name?
trying
That's like
to.
oh man.
She's trying to. I
Oh.
mean, RFK is polled a lot higher than she has. I think he stayed right around 20 to 25. She was somewhere
I
around
want
like,
RFK to be the Marianne Williamson this time around. We don't need Marianne Williamson to be Marianne Williamson again.
It's true. It's true. But either way, RFK, he seems like the one that could legitimately be that one that's really a standout. But then there's others. I mean, I think if Nikki Haley plays her cards right, the CNN thing didn't necessarily impress me. Tim Scott, I think he could do very well,
love
depending
Tim Scott.
depending on
I
how he
love the
plays
guy.
his cards. I could see him
Did
really.
you see anything from The View today?
I saw a couple clips, but not the
Okay.
whole thing. I need to watch that later.
His the strategy that he can bring to the race and completely reframing the conversation around race is huge for Republicans.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like he's been doing. Dom always talks about when responding to one of the addresses he used from Cotton to Congress in 2 generations, that he just had an absolutely incredible rise, his family, and the opportunities that they were able to get living in America. And he's essentially used that to reframe the narrative on The View today. And every time he got something going that was like legit a great point, and you could see people kind of, turning and warming up to it, like the crowd, they would go, and it's time for commercial break.
Yeah.
So at one point, Tim
yeah.
Scott actually says something like, why do you keep going to commercial break every time I make a good point? Yeah. But that guy, I like that guy. So is there any, Vivek, you named pretty much all of them.
Vivek's in there. Yeah, you're right.
But is there any lower candidate? Mike Pence declared today, Chris Christie, that you think has any chance against a Trump?
I think
DeSantis.
if Nikki Haley played her cards right, she would. I think she first. I mean, when they asked her about abortion yesterday, she fumbled. She fumbled.
Oh, you think she fumbled?
Yeah. She avoided the question still. This is the game. This is the
I
thing.
don't know,
This
man.
is you have to be able to answer that question, or else they're just gonna frame you as the villain. Like
So what do you mean by I think she answered it well. Like what we've been saying on Dom's show for a long time is there's a new way that Republicans have to address abortion while remaining pro-life, and that's through reframing the left as the extremists in having late-term abortions. And I think she did that pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I get that point of it, but when you're asked about someone in your state who needs to get an abortion and there's all these restrictions, it is an issue. But I understand what she's saying. I do understand what she's saying about each state representing what they want to represent and voting for what they want the state to have in terms of that. So I understand that. That's really a message that's going to be very difficult to get through to young people.
Okay.
I think we can't. At one point, you hope they look at it as the Democrats had decades to do this and they didn't. But I don't know. It's a high hope thinking that that'll happen. So I think you almost have to be pro-choice and say that allow national maybe loopholes to help them get abortions nationally if the state is restrictive. I know that's not what Republicans want, but I'm just saying someone like Nikki Haley, who is they're just going to call Nikki Haley a hypocrite specifically because she's a woman.
Right to left. So DeSantis' 6-week heartbeat bill, completely bad idea.
That one's bad. I think 12 weeks is a sweet spot. I think that's good. I think what you're saying about her in 12 weeks is good.
You think conservatives then need to essentially say, here's the plan. You got 12 weeks. You have exceptions for rape and incest. And what? That's it?
Pretty much, but it's just hard to get that logical point through to people. I guess that's why we need to stop.
That's kind of what I'm saying too, though. And the way I feel you do that, though, is using the emotional strategy, and that would be by framing the left as the extremists by saying, abortion until the point of birth.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, generally, I don't want to just make it all about that, but I know whoever the candidate is going to be totally attacked on that. That's what we continue to see from the left. And, that issue aside, which I think obviously the left's going to have a better argument at one point as well when it comes to abortion, because what are they going to do in these states where they claim to want to totally change it? Probably things like executive orders. We'll see how that goes depending on what happens and who wins and et cetera, et cetera. But
do you think Republicans can employ strategy? Because in Nikki Haley's answer last night, she veered into, even if we get in there, it's been, how many years did she say? 80, 100 years since we've had a super majority in the Senate that's pro-life. So even if I were to be president, it wouldn't matter anyway because nothing's going to change. It's now in the state's hands. It's going to remain in the state's hands. Do you think that would have any play with a moderate base?
I hope so, but people just think that it should be some national thing, just like guns. They think it should be this national thing. But no matter what happens, I think my whole point with the saying nobody has no chance in that sense, we all said this about Trump in 14, 15. Everyone said that. Trump had no chance. Yeah, no chance. There's, he's fighting against the structure. There's no shot.
Sorry, when was the escalator? That was a long time, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying don't put any of these people out to dry. I think, if anything, DeSantis really needs to pivot. If he doesn't, he'll sink. Tim Scott is rising quick. Haley, like I said, I think she's kind of stagnant, but we'll see. I think a woman has an appeal, and obviously the Trump voter... or excuse me, the Republican non-Trump voter, I think that appeals to many, many women. Someone that isn't necessarily Republican, Nikki Haley, I think could win some moderates over as well. So I don't know. I think, and I'm not saying that just because she's a woman, but I think she portrays it well. She does everything in almost a level-handed.
A lot of the moderates I talk to, even leaning left, they recognize Nikki Haley as a net positive.
I think people think that she's a politician as they should be, almost in a sense like that, if that makes sense. But I don't think that matters that much. But people think that matters, so that's what makes me think she has some sort of a chance.
Yeah. I have one more thing that I want to talk about with this race. Trump, he essentially said that he won't. I don't know if this is still valid or not, but at one point he said he won't support the winner of the eventual nominee, or he wouldn't sign on to noting his support, which they're requiring. Ronna McDaniel's requiring that every RNC candidate, if they want to participate in debates, they have to sign a little waiver that says, if I lose out to one of my opponents, I'll eventually support them. Trump is, I don't know, I think it still is, but last I read, he was not going to sign that waiver. First off, good or bad move? Do you think he should declare his support for, because my eventual question is, do you think this is leading to him running, if he doesn't win the nomination, saying, F you, Republicans, I'm going to run as an independent. I don't care if it splits the vote. I just want it for my ego. Do you think there's any...
Yeah, I think that's a possibility for sure.
Yeah?
That definitely could happen. But I think at the same time, he shouldn't do that, because if he did do that, then he has no future in politics. Which,
What's the matter?
well, I think he should. If I'm him, I'm walking away already. But I think with him and how he acts, I don't think he wants to walk away. So if I'm him, I'm not saying I would do this. I would walk away if I were him. I'd take the money and run. But no, he's I think he's determined. He wants to stay in the game. And if that's the case, like you're saying, then just surrender. Whatever, he could get some nice cushy job in like the administrative part of the Republicans and.
Like, because I got to be completely honest with you and the audience. That's my biggest anxiety with Trump, because I really like Trump. I could see myself leaning towards Trump again, as I have in the past. It's just if we throw him too much support and he loses out, is he gonna?
There needs to be
Is he
competition.
gonna screw conservatives?
Competition is good for everything. We always say we like open markets, right?
Yeah.
We need competition in the Republican Party. We also need it in the Democrat Party. We should have all of these debates. I know the Democrats are trying to shut down the debates too. Trump has to be at the debates, and he has to be part of this. He has to, at the end of the day, maybe he walks away and is an independent, like you say. Whatever. That would happen, and he has his loyalists that would do that. But, I think you have to at least go by the wayside here and see what happens, because they need competition. They need to help hold each other accountable and make it a better, like, that's what we're missing in politics. There's no competition. It's just a monopoly. People work their way up quickly. I shouldn't say quickly. A lot of them are lifelong, but you know what I mean. They get to that top tier and they're in the conversation and they get to sit at the table for a while. So it's just, that's what we have to stop, and hopefully we have more competition, and that's what we need.
And term limits. We need term limits.
Yep.
Keep those term limits in. If you're watching in HD, I'm drinking a red Gatorade. I might have some,
in HD.
some red lips in this 1080.
Caught in 4K.
Yeah, what is it now? 1440?
I don't know. It's not.
Andy writes in, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but your name and logo always reminds me of a Red Hot Chili Peppers song.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy you noticed that. Yeah.
What a shock.
Big Chili Peppers fans here. And yeah, we thought we'd play on the album. There's an album out there called The Otherside. All right, let's switch into, let's go to Fan Expo. Yesterday, we went to Philadelphia Fan Expo over at the Pennsylvania Convention Center. Met didn't really meet any celebrities. Saw some great celebrities and had a great time. A friend of the show sent us both over there. And Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, we're doing a Back to the Future panel. And, man, I don't know what you were thinking, but we were sitting there watching this panel.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware, Michael J. Fox has Parkinson's, pretty advanced stage Parkinson's. And a lot of his physical mobility is affected by the Parkinson's. And he comes out on stage after Christopher Lloyd, after Biff Tannen, forget the guy's actor name, and I apologize because he was awesome. I mean, you're talking about being a local guy, started acting at the Kimmel Center before it was the Kimmel Center. But Michael J. Fox comes out and do you have the video of that? Of what happens?
Yeah, we could take.
So he's bowing to the crowd, right? And now international news. Here we go. Here he comes out, walking out, and wants to salute his fans. And awesome guy, Michael J. But you see him stumble there, fall. Man, I might have pooped myself a little bit when that happened.
I mean, he recovers quick.
He does. Gets back up there and starts talking and telling great stories about his career and the things that Back to the Future meant to him. Mm-hmm. But how freaking awesome is that this guy, advanced stage Parkinson's, it's still, I don't want to say it because I might be selfish, but he's still putting his fans first. He's still coming out to these events. Mm-hmm. Do you think if you were in his state, you would be doing the same thing?
It's hard to say yes. I mean, it takes a lot of effort. I think anyone, no matter what you do every day, especially if it's something like that, where I know a lot of people think it's easy acting, like, oh, you just show up, you just talk, you read off of a sheet, whatever, you put on a costume. I mean, what he did, he impacted a generation. He worked on dozens and dozens of movies that people watch and watch and watch over and over again. And the guy worked tirelessly. And then to get a disease like that and to fight through it. Too. And and to fight through it and to, still be dedicated. And not only that, he has a foundation for Parkinson's and finds the awareness more than, anyone. He's accepted so many awards. And after that, then donated the winnings and given
He's-
it to a good cause. And
Well, let's give a plug to. He has a new documentary out there as well.
I mean, seeing him fall, yeah, I was concerned in that moment, but he recovered so quick.
He did.
Just in an instant. I mean, we just showed you, but it was definitely. We sat down. I didn't expect. Obviously, I knew he wasn't in the best state, but didn't expect to see him.
I didn't expect
take
it to be
a-
that bad.
Yeah, take a fall like that.
He's clearly suffering. He's going through the thick of it. Still a Michael J. Fox movie, a documentary on Apple. I did it again. I always get trashed by Minnie. Minnie always gets me. Everything
she
I
in the
watch
chat.
is on Apple, she says. No, this one just happens to be on Apple. I'm not sponsored by Apple. But let's get into well, you know what? Before we go there, I just want to say that fan expo yesterday. I went to a past fan expo in Philly, done by the same people. This thing was like double the size. It's growing huge. It's freaking awesome. And I've been to Comic Cons out in Indiana, out in Atlantic City. This was a really awesome time. Had awesome vendors. I mean, the panel with Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd. I suggest if you are able to make it out next time, definitely go. And I mean, Giancarlo Esposito. Were you there with us when we saw him?
Yeah, no, Breaking
What's
Bad.
up with that man though?
What a
all right,
legend.
so Gus Fring from
Oh, we
Breaking
would have got a
Bad.
picture. It was $90 or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's
Oh my
expensive.
god,
It's
I wanted to meet Gus Fring. Trust me, it would have been our new cover for
So-
the podcast.
Breaking Bad. Gus is like the biggest badass, and man, he's listed as 5'8". That's being generous.
I feel like I'm short as hell, and he made me feel like you.
Massive, yeah.
He made me feel like you. Yeah,
He's
you're
gotta be all
you're
of 5'4".
you're a gentle giant. I'm just a
What I found out is also Mike, the actor that plays Mike, is listed as only 5'9". He seems
Really?
very menacing as well. Yeah.
interesting.
All right, so let's get into that streaming. What are you checking out right now?
I know I talked about this last time, but Succession, definitely worth it. Season 1 was just absolute mayhem. The family is psychotic, ready to turn at any moment, and it's everything you would want in a dramatic kind of cutthroat show like that, and it's
Yeah.
everything I would have expected to be, and actually it's probably more.
Sell it to me because I hate whiny rich bitches. And that's all
They're
I
not
think it
even
is.
whiny. It's just cutthroat. It's just not even.
Yeah.
It's not really a lot of like, oh, woe is me. It's just fuck off.
Okay.
like
Yeah.
just total
Like,
mayhem.
so essentially Game of Thrones, but in modern times. Like,
Yeah,
if I can
yeah.
screw you somehow, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, essentially.
I like it. And so you're on season 1.
Yeah, yeah.
Scott Cronick is a TV critic and says, what is it, season 4? That's why I'm stumbling here. Season 4 or season 5?
Season 4, and that's I believe the total end for it. So
He says top 5 series up there with Breaking Bad of all time. But says you have to watch it from the start. You can't start it. in season
yeah,
4.
I mean
Yeah?
that's exactly why. Obviously, I wish I was already done for to give people a total recap, but I'm getting there slowly, and I don't want to spoil it too much. If people are watching along the way, we'll kind of go from there. And I have other things I want to watch. I'm gonna get to some Spider-Man stuff after going to the Fan Expo. I'm ready to watch a bunch of nerdy stuff.
Sam
too,
Raimi was
so-
there.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. Doctor Strange and Spider-Man Legend. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Big
mean that
Spider-Man nerd?
if you're a comic book or a movie fan, that's just a must go. Whether it's
It was a lot of fun, man.
doesn't matter what city, and Philly, you would never think would have a big
So
I guess following for that, but it was awesome.
So Succession, Murdoch's or Trump's? What do you think it's more comparative to?
I've heard people even compare it to the McMahons.
I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and WWE.
Is it that the
and all
daughter's a
that.
strong character, right?
Yeah,
As an
yeah.
inherit, yeah.
So that's and then top that obviously.
You know what?
there's
That
a
might
daughter
sell
in
it for me.
Succession
That might
and-
sell it for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost like that. Obviously, everyone says it's the Murdochs and Fox and etc. But I think you get that to an extent. I was more worried that this is going to just be let's bash Fox TV as HBO, and this isn't. It's not that at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Okay, I'll give it because I watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes and just kind of fell off. Maybe like the first season,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like when it was happening, and then I just and forgot to watch it. And
I
then
need
now
a-
it's like getting huge again, and I'm like, oh, I should have.
I'm just trying to get through it as quick as possible. It's hard because I'm a little busy lately, but
Yeah.
and I'm trying to see some new movies.
So,
I also I need to give a review on some other stuff.
How much of your
later, so.
personal life do you want to reveal as to what's going on in your life?
My life.
Yeah.
A lot's been going on. I sprained my ankle.
Sprained your ankle.
Yeah, that was great.
You're moving.
Yeah, I moved.
Well,
yeah.
that's why I didn't know if you want to talk about that.
No,
but
yeah,
you're moving
yeah.
from Fairmount to Fairmount, right?
Yeah, staying in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, ATVs didn't scare you off. Yeah.
Not yet.
So if you're just joining us, youtube.com/@1210WPHT. This is the Otherside. It's like pirate radio where me and Anthony, two producers, will bring in other staffers from time to time and just talk about whatever
we'll
the
get
hell we
some
want to
guests
talk
soon.
about. Yeah. I want to bring Henry in, the mullet. But he does, so we might got to do that one at like 7 sometime though. Yeah. But if you're familiar with the station, with the channel, Rich will be here. Happy hour coming up here in about 35 minutes, but we'll keep you until about for another 20 or so. Why not? I'm watching a show, so I play in Madden leagues with a bunch of other dweebs. And with that, we've been doing it for like a decade. I've met a lot of friends from around the country, and one guy brought to my attention a story I never heard about. So in Indiana, Lafayette, Indiana, where Purdue is, and Westfield, Indiana. Westfield, I went to high school in Noblesville, Indiana. If you don't know, I lived in Cherry Hill growing up, moved out to Indiana for high school, went to IU, Indiana University, for college, moved back here to Atlantic City, did some radio there after working with Howard Stern, and then came over here to Philadelphia. So all that other side. The guy from Indiana tells me about this story that I never heard of. It's about a little girl called Natalia Grace, and she is a dwarf who is just, long story short. Have you seen The Orphan, the movie The Orphan, horror movie?
Yeah.
They adopt someone that's not who they say they are. This dwarf is allegedly older. The father of the family says that the person they adopted is older than they say they are. Saying stuff like the girl used to hoard knives, and they would wake up in bed sometimes with a what looked to be an 8-year-old that they had adopted over their head, holding a knife, looking to stab them, and just all these allegations. And I never heard about this, but it turns out there's actually a Discovery Plus documentary about it, and it's a Ukrainian orphan who has some kind of rare form of dwarfism. Family adopts him, and now there's a whole court case as to whether, after all this happens, the girl tortures the family, allegedly, according to the mother and father. Mother and father flee to Canada, get her an apartment in Indiana, Lafayette, and just leave her. A neighbor finds her and essentially says, this is child abandonment. We have an 11-year-old now, at the time she looks to be 11, who's a dwarf that's allegedly older, according to the family, living alone, and they charge the parents with child endangerment and child abandonment. So now there's a whole court case playing out in Indiana. This is going on right now, and this documentary tells the story, man, and it's fascinating. I gotta recommend it to you if you haven't heard of it, if you haven't checked it out. I'm trying to find, what the hell is Investigation Discovery. That's the name of the channel.
Yeah.
It's one of those like
They also did the Lost Boys of Bucks County.
Did they?
They did a whole thing on Cosmo, which
Really?
Yeah. If you're interested, that was obviously they have
They're
some
good.
of the family members. Yeah.
I poo-poo them because South Park did the episode with murder porn. It was just like a bunch of parents watching Investigation Discovery. So when I saw, my friend sent me this article and that there was a documentary about it, and I was like, I don't want to watch Investigation Discovery. Dude, I put it on. 3 hours later, we're 3 episodes in, and me and Maisie could not get enough. And it's going on now. I think episode 5's coming out. So if you're looking for something to watch, a true crime thing, it's again The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. Natalia Grace herself actually told her side of the story to Dr. Phil a couple years ago, and was like all over social media for a bit. So you might recognize the story from that, but it's disappeared and now it's back in the courtroom. So
there's so many documentaries now.
It's digging back up. Films. Have you seen the new Spider-Man? You said you were gonna go see that.
I'm gonna go. We'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
I need to see it. I'm obsessed with Spider-Man. The first Spider-Verse was awesome. It was like the best comic book movie I've ever seen. In the sense of like animated.
Okay, that's the one with Miles Morales?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's awesome. If you haven't seen the first
it's really good. It's really good.
It's awesome, yeah. Just the animation is almost like watching a real life
action?
It's not. It's just like a comic book.
So Sam Raimi from the Tobey Maguire version, he told me yesterday, is involved with this new one. So when he told me that, I've only seen like
No,
logos and
he
stuff. I
he
thought
was
it was like a live
involved.
action
He
thing.
was involved with the recent Spider-Man where it was the reuniting of all three.
Gotcha.
That was
Gotcha. So that was live action.
Yeah, so he was involved with that.
So you're talking about the new Miles Morales what's it called? Into the Spider-Verse?
Yeah. Into the Spider-Verse was the first one. Now it's like Finding My Way Home or something like that. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
I don't have it. I just know
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Taking some notes from the Beatles.
Too many verses. There's so many verse. But I'm excited as hell for it because the first one was really, really, really good. And this is Sony specifically.
Did you see it in theaters?
Yeah,
IMAX? Is that what you got to do?
Yeah.
Well, I watched it at home and I thought it was cool. I thought the animation was awesome, but I was like, this is one of those that you got to kind of see in theaters.
That one is a good one in theaters, and obviously this is early, but go and see Oppenheimer. Get your tickets early for that.
Is that out? I wanted to see
It's
that.
not out yet. It's late July. I think like July 21st.
That's
But
good, man.
I mean, my God, man.
You have Christopher
Nolan's
with
the
his
goat.
noises and the boom booms.
They
and
had
the
a real
Manhattan Project
explosion.
and-
They used a real explosion that
Did they blow up an atomic bomb?
it simulated a nuke.
Oh, that's
it
what I was
wasn't
gonna
really a
say.
nuke.
There's no
but
way they did that.
It simulated a nuke, but it's a real explosion. So
Yes,
it's
that's
gonna be
really
nuts.
Cool.
It's gonna be the movie of the decade, dude.
So it's
It's
essentially the amount of power of a nuke without the radioactive.
pretty crazy.
Ooh, that's
It's
nuts.
pretty crazy.
I'm excited. Do you know when that
I
out?
can't
It's out?
wait.
I have it here.
I think it's like July 21st.
Yeah, you actually
something
have
like
that.
that.
Remember,
Yeah.
you have that memorized. July
Yeah.
21st. Look at you.
I have the wrong things prioritized in my life, I guess.
Okay, keep going through. Succession, we hit. Ted Lasso finale. Are you caught up?
I'm not caught up,
Okay.
so I guess
Mixed reviews.
I don't want you to spoil it yet, I guess.
No, I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But Scott Cronick, the critic, again from Dom's show, didn't like it. I loved it. I liked it because it was fan service to the nth degree. It was all fan service, but it just wasn't that good of a finale. I mean, they wrapped everything up and they kind of left some things open ended. So Scott says, it's just another episode. It's gonna be a season 4. So let's hope there is. I love me some Ted Lasso.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess it's just like a comfort show to people at this point. I don't think they'll ever be able to get that excitement that they got out of me in season 1, but I do still think it's a great show. I think I said this. I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but I said this to you and some of our other friends. I've struggled to get through it, but I think I'm on episode 5. So I'm almost,
Okay.
So I'm almost there. I'm not far.
I think
but-
you're actually where it turned for me because I was
Okay.
with you. The start of the season, there are. Sorry if we're gonna get into the weeds with Ted Lasso real quick. Keely's a character that dated the main character, and they broke up. And Keely goes off and does her own thing, and it felt like a different TV show to me. So every time they went to go with Keely and Jack, her new girlfriend, it felt like it was like some different sitcom than Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
And that departure kept taking me out of the heartfelt nature of Ted Lasso. And once they broke up, spoiler alert, and things start kind of meshing back together by episode 5, that's when things started to pick up for me. So I do suggest finishing it, and let me know what you think about the finale.
Yeah, I definitely will finish it. It's just there's so much to watch. It's such an issue. You open your TV and there's
It's way too much.
1,000 services and
That's why I keep freaking bringing up these Apple Plus ones because
yeah.
like I hate to say it, but like what happens is we'll watch Ted Lasso, and the preview before Ted Lasso is an Apple TV show, and then afterwards you get suggested a TV show, and Maisie and I, the trailer will pop on, we'll be like, hey, this looks decent, let's check it out, and then we stick on that service. But you're right, there's just so many damn services with so many things that once I start watching something on Netflix, I usually stick on Netflix for a while too.
I have I tried it. There's this thing. It consolidates everything you log into on my phone, so I can just
What's it
look
called?
at.
You have a
I think that's just on my iPhone. It's called like Apple TV. You can just have everything.
it's like an actual.
You could like log into your subscriptions and then.
What is this,
But obviously,
commercial
but then
for Apple.
well, but then they sell it. But there are other apps. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know Google does a similar thing if you have Google TV or an Android. And you could obviously, there's 1,000 things you could download like that now too, but that helps it. But then it also makes it a little more overwhelming. I suggest making a watch list. If you make a watch list, it makes it easier. You could just go through your
Dude,
list.
I always tell people I'm
and
going
go
to
to-
add that to my watch list. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but like if you're watching this and I told you I'm going to add it to my watch list,
He's calling himself out, guys.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. But you're right. That's what you need to do. Is you need to keep track of all these suggestions that you get, and then.
Yeah.
But the problem with streaming today that kind of annoys me is, like when Lost was on TV, every Wednesday, the next day, Thursday at school or at work, you'd talk about that previous episode. I miss those days because what happens is the world watches Succession, so you hear about Succession, so now you watch Succession, but by the time you're done with Succession, it's not going to be relevant anymore to talk to anyone about. So then you kind of lose out the discussion aspect of TV.
I don't know. I think we've moved past that a little bit just because people are able to binge watch, and then whether you rewatch it because you love that show or you just love talking about the show. I mean, I think HBO is great at that more than any other network.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
we've seen that with The Wire. We've seen that with Entourage. We've seen that with, I mean,
And they're great
Game
on the
of
other side too. Like I
Thrones.
think they're the number one service of the still doing the weekly, Last of Us. With going with Last of Us, there's so much discussion
was
around
great,
it.
yep.
And I think they're really the only service I can think of where people are tuning in at a scheduled time to watch a new episode, and then.
Well, now you can listen to podcasts like we're doing. And there's so many, but there's
Yeah.
specific podcasts for every single show and that exact episode. And then you could email questions and they'll do it in their news
awesome.
show. And that's, I think that's there are kind of unlimited
It's
options
called a
now.
Lasso Cast or something like that. I think.
Yeah.
Ted
There's
Lasso.
probably
Like every show has their own.
There's got to be 1,000 Ted
podcasting.
Lasso podcasts.
All right, final thing we want to talk about before we get out of here. Rich Zeoli coming up in 24 minutes. Don't miss it. Nick Nurse, hired by the Sixers. Last time we talked, Doc Rivers was the coach, I think.
Oh, God, the Sixers, man.
Yeah.
I don't know why I continue to believe, but yeah, part of me thinks Nick Nurse could help. We're not blowing it up again. Can we just stop with that? We're not. This isn't the process 2.0. Life is
Why
about
not?
improving and fixing your mistakes.
You're on team keep Joel?
Hell yeah, for now. I mean, what are we going to
I
get
know
for
you're
him?
on team trade
He's-
Harden or get
he's
rid of
over.
Harden. Walk.
Yeah, well,
Go to Houston. Like, we don't want you to sign this option.
I mean, whatever. I'll keep him for like 2 years, overpay him, but I'm not signing him to more than that.
So what you're signing up for if you have Harden and Embiid on the same roster is mediocrity for another 2 years. We're not going to win the championship.
I don't know. I think
Nick
Nick Nurse could motivate Embiid, and also, but Embiid, first of all, he's a center, so his trade value goes down just because of that. Obviously, even if he's a superstar, but on top of that, he's aging. On top of that, he gets hurt in almost the most important points in the season. As much as
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Because you don't think Embiid could be swung for 2 first rounds, 3 first rounds?
we probably could,
Yeah.
but my whole point is, no matter what we could get, I do think whatever we do get, it is less than what we think we can get. Like Joel, I'm not saying he's not worth anything. He's obviously worth something. He's a top
But he's
10 NBA player.
If you're gonna
but
sell him, it's got to be now. He just won MVP.
agreed,
Like sell at his height.
agreed. But I just don't think the Sixers aren't going to do another whole process right now. And if they did, they would just be foolish. It's not gonna work again. It's just straight up not gonna work again. And I know they're not gonna tank no matter what would happen, even if they did trade Embiid. But this team continued to pull me back in. I do think Nick
It's
Nurse.
just when I thought it was out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, if anything, I would like to trade Harden, but then what are we gonna do? Get someone like Lillard, another aging shooter? I think really our biggest hope has to be Maxey taking that step, which he's starting to. It's just hard. He's still very young. Having him take that next step and really being a superstar, like top 5 to 10 shooter in the league, it's a hard ask, but we'll see if he can do it.
How about Tobias, a first
Get
round?
him out of here. That one for sure. I'm
Hold
on
on.
with.
Tobias, a first rounder, and who's even under contract besides Maxey and Embiid? Let's just say Tobias, a first rounder plus for. You think we can get another superstar? You think we can get Jaylen Brown out of it?
I mean, I don't think the Celtics are going to pay Jaylen Brown. There's a chance we could get someone, but we're not going to. They won't do like a sign and trade. But I guess he'll be a free agent eventually if they don't sign.
Like these, they could do
Anyway.
it. We could do. I mean, Harris plus an $8 million player for $40 million max.
The Celtics won't
Jaylen
take
Brown.
anything from us.
No.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That won't happen. They only
So is
fleeced
there
us
any
for
is there
Tatum.
any star that you could see dressing up in Sixers uniform next year?
Most likely feels like Lillard, but I would hope that it's someone younger. As much as obviously Brown has been the enemy, I wouldn't mind Brown. I think we need a younger star.
Only if he wears the mask, though. Like, he has to wear that mask.
We just need a younger star like that, and I do think getting a new coach could really put a new life in Embiid. He has to wake up, but again, having Harden here would be rough.
So many damn mistakes with this franchise.
The window is rapidly closing, but at the same time, there's not a total number one dominant team, so there's still a chance, and I don't want to totally give up either. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. NBA is a weird place. You could win almost any time right now.
Like
This isn't the Warriors versus Cavs years.
8th seed in the freaking finals.
Yeah, this isn't the Miami Heat years, Spurs years. This is different. The league is wide open. So
yeah,
we'll see.
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a whole new look next year, because I think the Hornets are gonna look good. You think? Because don't they have the number 1 pick?
Yeah. No, there's a chance.
Is it the Hornets? No. I don't know. With LaMelo, you pair with LaMelo. I think you give a young guy LaMelo and a couple other stars. I do think you have a team down there. The Hawks look good. The Heat, Butler and Bam aren't going anywhere, right?
Butler, you would think, is staying forever.
Yeah.
He's under contract. What was his deal? Was it like 6 years? 5 or 6 years. So he's down. He'll be there for a bit, and he'll probably retire there. I don't know if he'll even sign another deal, knowing him.
Yeah. I'd like to see Butler back with Embiid back here. It's just I hate the damn mistakes we made, because we could have had Butler, we could have had
Thank the
Tatum,
Colangelos.
we could have had
Thank
Jaylen
Adam
Brown.
Silver and the Colangelos.
We could have had just last year, instead of Harden, Tyrese Halliburton.
If Hinkie just stayed, I think we would have been fine. Hinkie understood things.
Yeah, it pisses me off because it's so close yet so far. All right, let's wrap things up, get out of the way, so the Zioli boys can get things going for their happy hour coming up at 5. Don't miss that. Always every day, Riches at 5, youtube.com/@1210WPHD. Dom Giordano every day at noon with Dining with Dom, and then Nick and Dawn are
every morning from 6 till 10, and then we periodically peek in, and I'll post the interviews and everything with Dawn as well.
Sweet. So I'm going to step aside, let Anthony do the closeout here, but it was a lot of fun spending some time with you. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, thank you guys all for watching. I know it's a little weird that it's not our on-air, but we're doing this podcast every week. We'll be doing it right around usually early or later afternoons. And
I got killer sick last week. We didn't do Krasnerland either.
I sprained my ankle.
Sincerely apologize.
We've been
bunch of wimps.
We've been
soft
on the IR.
I'm so soft.
But we're back. We're back.
Yeah.
Better than ever. But we'll be with you every single day. Today we're live with Rich till 6. Obviously always live on the Odyssey app. Check out our podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, Odyssey app, wherever you find your podcasts. And thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you guys again soon. See you soon.